This is going to be a tough case to listen to. The case is the state of Tennessee versus Brandon Isabelle. And I want to offer a trigger warning right now. This, as I said, contains some pretty awful facts. Here's what we're talking about today. So, Brandon Isabelle is on trial for a double murder, a murder not only of his former girlfriend, but also of his 2 day old daughter. And the facts could not get any worse for Mr. Isabelle. But I think if you listen to the prosecutor's opening, you'll imagine that there is no possible way they could be any worse for him.
It was the morning of February 2nd, 2022. Cold, bleak. Mud Island, where the Wolf River meets the Mississippi, was colorless, shades of gray and brown, except for a small baby cat, so out of place, lying on the riverbank, the only indication of what the defendant, Brandon Isabelle, did mere hours earlier. Danielle Boyle was 27 years old, and she worked at FedEx. That's where she met the defendant. A meeting that would change the course of her life and so many others forever. They had a brief sexual relationship, and Danielle got pregnant with Kennedy. The defendant then started dating another woman, Artisha Stewart. She also worked at FedEx. To the defendant, she was the perfect woman. He wanted to be with Artisha, and he'd do anything to keep her. Late the night of January 30th of 2022, the defendant received word that Danielle was in labor at Regional 1. He went to the hospital, and during those late night hours and early morning hours, he was texting Artisha. Their relationship had been on the rocks for a while. Artisha didn't want to deal with another child or another baby mama in the mix.
So the prosecutor has laid out a pretty compelling motive. Let's move on from the motive to what actually happened.
She takes the baby home to meet her family, and her mother, April Campbell, gets to spend one precious hour with Kennedy. She didn't know that that was the only time she would get to spend with her granddaughter, and the last time she would see her daughter Danielle alive. Danielle left that night in her Chevy Cruze. She had Kennedy in her car seat in the back seat, and she was going to meet the defendant. He said that he had baby clothes for her, and so they met at a Matco on Brooks and Elvis Presley. Somehow, the defendant convinced Danielle to drive down Sedgwick Road where it meets Levi, a desolate, deserted, dark road. Danielle pulled to the side of the road, parked the wrong way. The defendant exited his vehicle, opened the passenger door, and fired 5 shots into Danielle's car.
Even if this were only one murder, that would be pretty awful. A young, new mom basically conned into going down this lonely road so she could be shot to death. That is pretty awful. But it gets worse.
For a while, the defendant drove around with little Kennedy. He eventually made his way back to 8072 Lathbury in Cordova, which is where he lived with his parents. He went inside the house, changed clothes, put his Adidas slides in the trunk of his car, and got back in the Chevy Malibu. Kennedy was still in the car, not 2 days old. He had one more problem to take care of. He drove to Mud Island. Real-time crime center cameras show his car up and down, Island Drive, till he finally stops at the old boat ramp where the mouth of the Wolf River and the Mississippi meet. He took Kennedy from her car seat, grabbed her by the leg, and threw her into the cold, dark water.
Now, obviously, that's not all of the state's opening. I left some parts out because, frankly, you just didn't need to be bothered with some of those facts. Now, it's important to remember that the juries are always told that what the lawyers say isn't evidence, and that they have to wait till the end of all the evidence before they make their decision. But after that opening, I can only imagine how strong the jury thinks this case is. But the defense attorney is here to remind them that they have to keep an open mind.
We talked in board about how the state made the allegations, and they have. They did it through an indictment, and they did it through their opening statement. Now, it is up to them. The burden is on them to prove these allegations. Prove these allegations beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, we also talked about how you can't know for sure if truth is being told to you. And that's understandable. Truth brings like a veil on a clear day. Truth does not lend itself to interpretations. Different scenarios, different interpretations. Beyond a reasonable doubt, it's the same thing. If there are two reasonable, supported by the evidence interpretations, at the end of this proof, if it's reasonable, the verdict must be not guilty. To hold the state to that burden of proof. Thank you.
For a defense that I've heard in some time. But again, he doesn't have a lot to work with here. And so what he does have to work with is he's going to try and disparage as much as he can any of the evidence that comes in the case. Now, I will do another video, it will probably come out tomorrow, looking at some of the witnesses and some of the defense cross-examination to give you a flavor for how the defense is trying to defend this case. And together we'll sort of decide whether it's being effective or whether it's being ineffective. But at any rate, we want to keep an open mind because, again, there were 3 acquittals at Nuremberg. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you being here today. If you have the opportunity today, try to do one kind thing to help somebody else. Any kind thing will do. Buy somebody a Coke. Get them a cup of coffee. Anything that makes their day better. That would be a way to help make the world a better place. Because after all, isn't that what we're all after? Now, YouTube has a few things that they think you might be interested in, and they're going to be showing you that right up there.